one fish, two fish, no, anything? Okay, so we're gonna get started because I think 5 minutes have passed, and I actually have a class right after this. So, first of all, my name is Taisha Best. I am not a title holder. Yeah, my name is Taisha. I'm not a title holder. I originally grew up. My leather background is from actually the Dallas, Texas community. I now live in the wonderful Wilton Manors, Florida, where it's sunny and warm, unlike here. Yes, we will make it through. And I am editor of Leatherati. I handle a lot of the series that some people see published. Recently there was a Black race and race relations series that I thought was absolutely amazing. I was totally blown away from the contributions. I am actually secretary of the National Leather Association International, so I'm on a board still, so I can't say I'm a goddamn independent anymore. I'm like really close to retiring at the age of 30. I'm really trying. Yeah, because I've been in the community, the kink community, about 9 years, the leather community about 5 years. So it's really great to get a background from the interviewer, because then you'll understand the questions that I ask and why I come from, because I'm a military brat. So diversity and culture is very much heavy in me, so I'm sure the questions will be very helpful for him. So I'm going to pass the mic to Ramien. Or laser beam, you gonna laser beam that? Okay. Okay, here you go.
Oh, introduce myself. My name is Ramien Pierre. My preferred personal pronouns are he, him, and his. I am International Mr. Leather 2014. I was recently Mr. DC Eagle 2014. I live in Baltimore, Maryland. I actually live... Yes, we are mighty. That's our slogan. We might be small, but we're slow. And this is my second claw. So I'm very happy to be back and to not have to be smiling and waving all the time.
Okay. Because this is my first claw and I'm so nervous, so I'll be the one like smiling and waving like, hey Christina, I've not met you in person, but you know, yeah. It'll be like that. I'll be a little bit nervous, especially in my class coming up. No, I have, but you know, nervousness. I forget people when I'm nervous. I'm like, see, he's like me. Okay, good. And now that's why I've stopped drinking, because that also occurred frequently for me. So we are going to read through the questions that I've come up with. Also, I posted on Facebook for people to submit questions, and then also if the audience would like to ask questions, we will open up the floor for that too. So this will be a group kind of effort of awesomeness. So we are starting at the beginning, and we're going to ask you what got you into the leather.
What got me into the leather? So I knew for a long time, at least since college, that's when I first realized that I liked leather. And for me, it was the feel and the smell of it, those old leather jackets. Like I always wanted to be a varsity athlete because you got to wear the jacket or get a jacket. But I was really, really tiny and not good enough at anything that I would get a jacket in. So I ended up borrowing the jacket from a friend of mine in college. She went to some school in New York where I guess you get a jacket for graduate. I don't know why she had a jacket, but I just would not give it back because that creaky smell that leather sleeves make was such a turn on for me. For me, it wasn't connected to sex at all, and then it wasn't until late college that I found Tom of Finland. So gay people can look like this and be doing this to other people's bodies and faces. Like that was just a really affirming, exciting time for me. And but I didn't figure out, like I didn't connect leather to the sex to a community until I went to my first leather event, which is the next question. All right. So my first leather event was Mid-Atlantic Leather, and actually it wasn't all that long ago. It was 2009. And if anyone remembers 2009, that was the year, so MAL weekend falls on MLK weekend, and that was the first inauguration of President Barack Obama. So in DC, besides the fact that it's freezing, you have like this amazing community of people who are excited about a new president in general, but also the fact that the nation's first black president, or second if you count Bill Clinton. And then they're excited about leather stuff. So it just this whole weekend where it felt like this is I felt empowered. These are my people. I'm finally like I moved to DC because I wanted to be around other people of color, particularly other gay black men who were interested in more than just partying. Who had professional lives. And then finally, 8 years later, to see all of these different pieces of things that I knew I was kind of interested in happening all at once that whole weekend. So I went to the MAL contest. I didn't understand anything. It's very confusing. So I know I left early because I was by myself. It was down in the Almas Temple, so you go like downtown, there's a temple in the middle of DC that you never notice, and you go down, and I was in the back, and I remember the parade of colors, and I didn't understand who all these people were, because I thought there'd just be one person with one sash or crown or tiara or something, but there were all these people with stuff, and I didn't understand what it meant. I didn't know why they were marching in. I didn't even stay to see the whole contest. I was terrified. I remember the bathroom smelled of piss and poppers, and the rest was a blur. But that was my first event. So I'm actually fairly new when you think about it. 2009 was only 6 years ago, because I can do the math. And for me, it's exciting to know that my best years in leather are in front of me as opposed to behind me. Like, it's nice to know that somebody like me who is new to the community can have this kind of an opportunity, to represent one of the most amazing bars on the planet, and to represent another amazing title. I don't know if I answered the question.
No, that was a kick-ass answer. Right, it's because I was telling him when someone like Ramien is given a title of IML and he's new, he has far less bias in terms of a title holder, so far more open-minded and just discovering, so I'm sure your ears and eyes and everything was open, and everything was open. And everything? Some things maybe. I don't know, are you... Are we going there right now? Okay, so I want to talk about Onyx because Onyx is also on your vest logo, your IML vest. And I think that would be important to talk about. As we can see, it's an amazing vest. Leatherworks did an amazing job. Jason Pelkey is a friend of mine who made this. So tell me about Onyx. Why did you join, and what is Onyx for the black leather community?
Okay, so Onyx, what is it? It's a fraternity for gay and kinky men of color. If you identify as gay, kinky, or a man of color, it's a fraternity for you. It's a national fraternity, so that's an exciting part. Chapters in, well, the Midwest chapter is centralized in Chicago, but covers the Midwest. We have a chapter in the Northeast, which is basically New York, Mid-Atlantic, that's my chapter, and then Southeast, which is centralized out of Atlanta.
Yeah,
that's right. So we have a fairly, it's a wonderful family of folks, and like my family, I love them all, and I like most of them. So I found Onyx. I ended a relationship in, what year is this? This is 2015, so I ended that relationship in 2011. Does that sound right? That sounds right. We're gonna, for history's sake, that's what it ended, 2011. And in 2011, I'm literally with my partner. We broke up, but we're still in the same house, so there's about a month before I moved into my new place. And we had this moment, because I went to MAL that year, again, because after 2009 I kept going. And I went to MAL, and we didn't talk about it, but he must have found out I went. So he said, "Why didn't you tell me you were into leather?" And we were sitting on the edge of the bed, and I'm sitting there thinking, we've been in a relationship for 3 years, and I never told you I was into the leather. And I'm just sitting there thinking for probably a good 10, 15 seconds, and I realized, No, we did. We talked about this. Like, we actually played around in leather back when we started, but for some reason, it fell away. Like, in all the thinking of what a good relationship was like, I somehow parked all that leatherness, like the desire for the smell and the feel, and somehow I'd forgotten about it. I'd lost that. So after the relationship ended, I said, well, damn it, I'm gonna get all the things that I lost back. So I said, I'm giving myself permission to explore. And that was exactly at the time when a friend of a different ex said, oh, well, you're in the Mid-Atlantic region, Onyx is having an informational meeting, if you're maybe you'd be interested in that. And I knew a little bit about them because from IML, I knew that they hosted a cocktail party, which now has turned into a gear show. So I'm going, what was the question? Oh, how to get on. So I went to the meet and greet, met them, and I thought this is good for me. This is gonna be a good chance for me to push myself, and it's nice to be able to do it with people who look like me and perhaps think like me. And I need an affirming place, and for me, that's the real value of the organization. Yes, I wish there were more Latino men in the group. Yes, I wish there were more Asian men in the group, both East and South. For me, it's wonderful having a home base, and I told them this because of all the Eagle and IML-ness. I said, I could not do all of that stuff outside of my family, outside of the club, if I didn't have some place where I felt like I was welcome. Not welcome, but like I didn't have to explain anything. I'm not gonna be confused for anybody else. I don't have to say, I can sit in the room. Like, I went to a business meeting last week when we inducted new members, and they ignore me, they give me shit. There's no, Ramien has walked in the room, you know, there's no Mr. IML, which I get all the time. Drives me crazy. Sorry. It was just nice having it just be family and them seeing me as me. So I could not do the stuff I do unless I had that sort of home base. And I do get that for some of my brothers, it is so seductive. Like, when you're with people who are like you kind of just want to stay there. It's like being in a warm blanket, or like in a bath, or in a bed full of pie. Like, you just don't want to leave. Like, why would I leave? Like, everything I want is right here. And so I get why some of my brothers don't spend more time engaging with the rest of the community, but particularly I think in the Mid-Atlantic region, we do a really good job of supporting as many other folks as we can, and getting out a little more, volunteering at the Masters Lady Conference, you know, doing what we can. There are a couple of us who are even here, not in this room, but out there taking part of the weekend. So for me, this works. I get that it may not work for everybody, but thank God Onyx is here, because I believe this world is big enough for there to be separate space. I think it's okay that there is this group only, and this group only, and that group only space, provided there are people like me who still hop between the different pots. So I'm a bridge.
Yes, you're both bridges. Yeah, there's something empowering to talk about being with your people and spending that time to recharge before going out, you know, fighting the fight, you know. And it may not just be about, you know, racism, oppression, but like just being an activist in leather and representing leather. You were amazing at that, you know, so you talking about that is very wonderful. So, what?
Talk about introverts and recharging.
Oh my goodness, okay. So here's another part of the interview. He said he's gonna ask me questions every once in a while because I like to hide from the mic and from interviews. So he's like me, we are both introverts. This is my first call, as you can tell. They said there's gonna be like 1,000 people here, which blows my mind. God, don't even say that. See, I'm already like about to let me go to my room really quick. But with people, some of the people, like even Jeffrey Payne, who you see the most, like in your face, actually are very introverted. We spend a lot of time at home recharging because our personalities are so loud and bold, and it's shared with everyone that it's very draining. So we have to come back home, you know, watch our Netflix, you know, Grey's Anatomy, Archer, whatever we watch, you know, and then go back out and again fight the fight, solidarity. So being an introvert can be very complicated, whether you're a title holder or not. So we're doing more to bring more of us introverts out there. So there's a more balance between us like doing the fight and being able to hand off the mic to someone else so that we can again go recharge. So I think that would be the answer to the question. I think I answered the question right.
Nice job.
Okay. Okay, so now that we talked about Onyx, we can talk about Mr. DC Ego. So my question would be, and I mean, you'll answer this very well, of course. Did Onyx come first, or did Mr. DC Ego come first? Okay.
Yeah, so Onyx came first, and I had no intention of doing anything more than that. The pledge process for us lasted, my line lasted about 6 months. It was forever. And I will say this, leather people can talk. Holy Lord. So in Onyx people, like, it was 6 months of talking. I thought, is there any actual kink involved, or are we just going to negotiate consent for 4 months before we get around to doing anything? Because I came here to explore and experiment and be empowered and educate. So I had no intention of running for a title, and I remember when I decided to run for Mr. DC Eagle. My partner and I, we were on our way to New York City. We were on the megabus. He was asleep, and I was awake. And I was rereading Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Workweek. And we were on our way to it was a birthday present for him. We were going to go see some shows in New York, and it was going to be a relationship retreat weekend, which was going to be our second, I think, like where we did this sort of self-time, but spend some time talking about us and our future. So I was in this very, like, thinking about my future space, and Tim Ferriss asks this question about your dreams. He says, what would you do if you couldn't fail? Like, if you couldn't fail, what 3 things would you want to do this year? And that weekend was also the same weekend as the New York Eagle contest, and one of our Onyx brothers, CJ, was running. And actually, he was named New York Eagle that weekend. So I had that in my brain, knowing that, okay, today we're going to get there, go to play. Tomorrow we'll go to the bar and watch the contest after the other play. And so somehow that got into my list. I thought, well, if I could do something that I would not fail at, let's see what being a title holder would be like. I like a challenge. Periodically I give myself challenges to do. It'll be a nice exercise, you know, a nice stretch for me as an introvert, as someone with stranger danger, as a horribly private person. Yeah, I grew up thinking that strangers are dangerous. I was raised that strangers are dangerous. So that's my default. Dangerous. Which is true. Yes, maybe.
Just wear consensual kink shirts, all of you.
So I just said that's I can't remember what the other things were on my list, but that was one. I'm gonna run for this. And I'd had some conversations with that summer with a couple of past DC Eagles about their journey, because as part of my Onyx sort of self-research, I wanted to find out about people's journeys. Although I've said journey now 3 times, so people should be drinking, but... All right, so it made it to it got on the list. I didn't tell my club. I told a couple of club members, because any member is private person. I only told a couple of club members about this. My president, maybe he was the only person I told, until 2 weeks before, maybe it was in the week before the contest. I put my application in 2 weeks before. Week before the contest, we had a business meeting actually at the Eagle. They said, oh, next week is the DC Eagle contest. And I said, well, speaking of that, actually, I'm going to be running. They're like, oh, that's great for you. You're going to have so much fun. And of course, I read something into that. Like, I'm not doing this for fun. I'm doing this for, like, a challenge and the adventure. Like, fun. Again, pie, bed. That's fun. So then, and I'm really glad I made the decision. First, I'm glad I made the decision to do it. I'm glad that I made the decision to announce it only a little bit ahead of time, because for me, being also a shy person, in addition to being an introvert, didn't give my brain enough chance to interpret people's words and actions as unsupportive of my efforts. Like I might have talked myself out of it if I said a month or 2 months, this is something I want to do, and people didn't give me the exact right reaction, I might have said, yeah, I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? Although I did have that moment literally, I was getting picked up at 4:30 to be dropped off at the bar for the contest, and around 4 o'clock I was like, fuck, what have I done? This is a huge mistake. I can't believe I've done this. Like, why did my boyfriend, this is so stupid. I made a huge mistake. Can I take it back? What if I don't show up? Which actually also happened at IML, we can talk about that later. Like I had a complete meltdown the Thursday afternoon before PECs and Personality. I like fell apart in my room. I'm gonna stop there.
Okay, that was awesome again. So you already talked about your goals with the bar title. How did you prepare for IML? Because you're talking about the meltdown. So when you won the Mr. DC Eagle, how did you and why did you choose to continue forward to IML, or was it an obligation?
Yeah, it's not an obligation. DC Eagle's not the DC. There's no contract DC Eagle signed, but the obligations for DC Eagle is help judge the New York Eagle contest at the end of your or near the end of your year. Come back to help judge your contest. There are a couple of local fundraisers you're supposed to be a part of, some specific ones, but other than that, you can do what you want. If you want to go to IML, you can. You don't have to if you don't want to. I thought, well, that was a challenge and fun. Let me try the next step and see how it goes. I also thought, if I don't go, the 6 motherfuckers who didn't win will kill me. So, because they would say, well, why would you take a spot if you're not going to go on? Because we won. So I felt, I'm going to do this and see how it goes. And, sorry, what was the question?
Why did you decide to run for IML?
Oh, so I decided,
And how did you prepare?
how did I prepare? So, oh yeah, thank you. How did I prepare? So, a number of DC Eagles have done well at IML. So not only did I feel a little bit of pressure of needing to get into the top 20, but they're good at giving advice. And they have fairly different personalities, like the last 4 or 5 DC Eagles. They're all tall, which is irritating. No, I'm just saying, it's like, okay, one, the sash does not fit me like it fit you, so that does not work. And so I got coaching, I got advice from them. Some of my Onyx brothers helped put together some interview panels for me. But the real key, obviously my sash father, Nigel Williams, he was really instrumental in giving me advice. And the key for IML was putting together the binder. Apparently, like the rite of passage for DC Eagles going to IML is you put together your binder of IML stuff. What you wear, what you say, what you're supposed to do, who all the judges are, a picture of yourself in your sash on the front so that it's your binder and not someone else's binder. So I put that together because I didn't have, there's no handler team, and because of Stranger Danger, Private, I did not recruit a team of people to help me. So it was just me and my binder. And my partner occasionally handling things when I
like a bridezilla right now, right?
Do I?
Yeah, like, this is my binder, this is how it's gonna go. The bridezilla thing is gonna happen. Here's what I'm wearing in terms of socks. Like, it sounds like you're very coordinated and organized.
Well, I'm a bit of a control person, I suppose, but you're trying to control social situations to avoid all the, like, oh my God, like the anxiety. But yes, I'm a sashzilla, I suppose. Is so I had that, but nothing really prepares you for, or I don't think anything could really prepare me for the social pressure. And then I just tried to do my job. I thought, let me just focus on what is my job as Mr. DC Eagle. It's a bar title. My job, if I have a bar title, is get people to the bar, people at the bar, have them feel good, support the clubs. It's easy. I'm just gonna keep doing that. And occasionally I'll go out and do things where people see me. I rarely actually wore the sash. I liked people to meet me first and be, oh, look what a nice guy that is. And then later see, oh, you're Mr. DC Eagle, because I would have the vest. They'd see it when I turned around, when they weren't looking at my ass. And I thought that was the best way to go, is to like not lead with it, but to follow with it. And that worked for me, although it doesn't work for everybody. So that's what I did for IML prep. And
So we're going to talk through IML and the top 20 and blah, blah, blah. You melt down Thursday.
Right. I'll wait for that. Oh, don't do that now. Talk about the meltdown and IML. All right. So the way IML works is the Thursday before the contest is when all the contestants come and have their orientation. Some of you were here, so listen up. And you get to see these other amazing people. I just had a thought. I'm going to mention something else in a second. These other amazing people who are charismatic, tall, look fantastic, and they are working the room. And I just felt like, at the end of the day, I was like, I can't do this. Like, I can't be them. I can't do that. And then I have a very powerful inner critic. And so I go back to my room like around 3 o'clock, I crawl into bed, and I start crying. And I cried probably for at least a good hour. And then my partner, he came that afternoon. So because I was by myself crying when it started. And then when he was there, he tries to be supportive, but my inner critic is really good and very lazy. So like the way my inner critic works is you'll say, oh, it's gonna be okay. My inner critic says, no, it's not. And then like, no, it'll get better because of X, Y, and Z. And then my critic says, no, it doesn't work that way. Like he doesn't have to come up with new stuff, he just says no to whatever you just said. So every time he would say something supportive, like my inner critic would make, like I would start crying worse. It was just horrible. And so what I've learned for me is what I have to do to shut him off is I literally have to starve him. Like I have to hold my breath. But I couldn't think, like I was just so caught up in this revolving loop of I can't do this, this is not gonna work, I'm a horrible person, I should have never been here, I should have never been picked as DC Eagle, I should have never run. Like that was just going on in my head. And what got me out of it was my community. So I thought back to the people at my bar, people who said, go off and do this, you can be great. I thought, well, if I don't go out on stage tomorrow, they'll still like me. They'll still love me for me being the person who I am. They'll still appreciate me. They'll understand, yeah, you know, it wasn't a requirement, we get it, you know, it's okay. And I thought, I'm gonna stay for the weekend because my ticket is, I don't have a flight home until Tuesday. So I'm just gonna stay, I'm gonna enjoy the weekend. It's my first IML, like, I'll be fine. And I just won't compete. That's what I'll do, I just won't compete. And then my inner critic said, they will talk about you until you're dead. You won't be able to show, you'll have to move from DC. Your community will eat you alive. And even though that's like, sounds fairly horrible, that's what I needed to hear to get me out of bed. So I said, okay, because the rational thought was, if my inner critic is right, everyone else is wrong, but I wasn't thinking rationally at the time. So fear of my community got me out of bed, and literally, so I just sat up in bed, and I said, okay, let's see how this goes. So I sat up in bed for a little while, and this whole entire time my partner's watching me, like silently in the corner, because he's learned at this point, he just can't do anything. I sit up in bed, and then about 10 minutes later, I take the blankets off, and put my feet on the edge of the bed, and about 10 minutes later, I get up and go wash my face. And about 10 minutes, like literally I did every step. I said, let's see how this goes. Let's see how this goes. Let me see if I get my clothes on. Let's see if I get my boots on. And you know, it got me out the door. So the whole so that was Thursday. And my partner actually said, I don't think you should go out because that's the night of the roast of the last IML and International Mr. Blue Black. And he said, I don't think you should go out because you're an emotional wreck. I don't want you, and this is important to you, I don't want you to ruin your chances. And I said, silly, I don't cry in public. I'm a robot. So I put on my title-winning smile and got out there in my boots, and I just said, I'm just gonna take one step at a time. And made it through the night, that was fine. IML, top 20. So they do a dress rehearsal of everything, and they show you how everything looks, and they actually they randomly pick a top 20. Dean Ogren swears, and I believe him, that he has friends who weeks before give him random numbers based on the number of contestants, and so he just calls these people will come out, pretend you're the top 20, here's how you'll line up. So you can see that. Then they go away, then he says, then they pick a top 3. So I was in the top 20 during rehearsal. I was in the top 3 during rehearsal, and actually I won during rehearsal. But we were rushed because, I think he just picked me because I was near the far right hand of the stage at the time, where it was oh, you get up there. So during the contest, when I make top 20, I thought, oh, this is great. I'm relieved because my community doesn't hate me, because if I didn't make top 20, they might hate me, and I'm afraid of them. I love them, but I'm afraid of them, like my family. Love, fear, maybe like. And then when I got called to the podium, it was like I was sort of like walking in slow motion. Like I remember that feeling of like, I can't believe this is happening. Are they sure they got my name right? Am I number 16? Yes, it's me. And then I just hollered. I was just so excited. But I was thinking, I'm just having so much fun. I was having an amazing time. I was having fun backstage. After having the breakdown, I decided I'm just gonna go have fun. Let's see how it works. I had the best of almost all the best of intentions when I wanted to win.
So, you won IML. What was the goal of you being IML? And I'm also going to add, what is the lasting legacy that you want to leave as IML?
Yeah, I want to be a nice guy. I was given, when you're running for IML, you're given a lot of unsolicited advice. And I listened to 30% of it. And some of my DC Eagle forefathers gave me some great advice, but I'm not them. And I can't pull off, I don't think I can pull off super macho, masculine Tom of Finland IML. I don't think I can really pull off activist, fighting for a cause IML. I think what's more authentic for me is nice guy IML. Have a burger and fries with me IML. And in all honesty, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think our community could use some of that. Now, do we want that all the time? No. Do we want an IML that always wants to have pie and cake all the time? Okay, this crowd does. But I thought, so I want to be nice. I want to show that nice guys can win things and do well, that introverts and kind people, like, you don't have to be this, that being a man, one version of being a man is being hyper-masculine, but another version, among the many versions of being a man, is being kind, is being humble and nice, is sharing your power and spotlight with others. So what I more wanted to do is do small things. Like, some people have asked me, like, you seem like you're a crusader for trans rights, for example, or for women's rights in our community. And it's funny, odd to me, only because, but funny, odd, and haha to me, because all I've done are things like, I'll introduce myself with my preferred personal pronouns, which is something that usually only trans folks are asked to do, but then it occurred to me, well, why only them? Like, why can't I say what my pronouns are? If I only use my voice for my people, that doesn't seem to be an effective use of my power. Again, jumping from the different ponds, or whatever we're gonna call them, these pots of separate space, it seems to me that you're more likely to notice and hear it if it comes from an unexpected source, right? Like, if trans people who talk about their preferred personal pronouns, it ends up, I think, sometimes just being noise. Women who talk about their place in the community sometimes ends up being noise. But if I talk about Women's History Month, if I talk about my preferred personal pronouns, people are more likely to notice. I actually had, until you asked me to write that article for Leatherati, I don't think I ever talked about race. Because I sort of feel like I'm going to have to take faith that the universe will provide and somebody else will take up the race issue. Someone who doesn't look like me will take up the race issue for me. Like, I need that ally. I want someone to be that ally for me while I do this other work. So I just want people to think of, my legacy is that I want people to think that I'm reasonable, that I'm nice, that I returned the title in as good or better condition as I found it, and that, like, the bridge building, I like that. I like that. I like people to say, oh, Ramien Pierre, he's a nice guy. And I think to have title holders be perceived that way is not a bad thing.
So, now that we've kind of finished the IML spectrum, we're going to go into the more non-PC part of the interview. We've had a discussion. He already mentioned that he doesn't talk about race a lot, but we both felt it was important to discuss it. But we're both very snarky, kind of humorous people. So our first talk is going to be about the Know Your Negro thing. Does anyone in the audience know about the Know Your Negro? Okay. Do you want me to explain it, or do you want to explain it?
How about I explain how it came up?
Okay, that's it.
So I'll explain. I was down in Fort Lauderdale. All right, so I'm going to come out that Fort Lauderdale was the place where this happened. I talked about several incidents that happened in the Leatherati article that I wrote, but Fort Lauderdale was a place where both my partner and I were at a leather event. I would say there were about 40 people there. There was one other black man there who's, I would say, a little bit taller than me. I'm 5'8", first thing in the morning when I stand up straight. And my partner, he's 6'3". So, and football sized. So we don't look alike. But every time I stood next to this gentleman who was local, people mistook him for my partner. And every time my partner stood next to him and I wasn't there, they mistook him for me. And I'm like, how could this, is he a magical Negro? Like, how is that possible? That he is, you can mistake him for one of us, but not for both of us. And he's local, like, you know him. I was telling this story to Taisha the next day at a pool party at Patwanka's house, right? And Adrian, and then somehow we got from there, I said, there should be an app that helps people. Like, are they above 5'8"? Yes. Do they have hair? Although hair is hard because sometimes that changes. But so we came asked you a few characteristics of the person of color that you're seeing in front of you, and based on your answers, it would tell you the Negro in front of you is most likely blank. So we thought someone should make, as we were joking in the pool, someone should make this app because that's what I do when I'm in a pool. And then Taisha brought up Know Your Negroes.
Right, because I also have this issue, and I swear to God, there's like only two in this leather community, two like black women who are over 6 feet tall, just saying, for real, like Jill Carter I think could be one of them. But people mistake me for Melena and Sarah Vibes, and I'm like, this is not like, and this is not coming off racist, but like Asians, like I confuse Asians sometimes, you know, because I feel they kind of look alike. Again, non-PC, so I'm like trying, intersectionality, I'm trying to relate to how, you know, Asian people are talking, intersectionality, big word. And they were like, hey Melena, how are you, how's your travel? And I'm like, oh my God, how is this happening? Like special dark chocolate, caramel color, but shorter. And so, like a couple years ago, Melena was the one that came up with the Know Your Negroes, and I think what she would do is at events, she would get all the black people together, and we would take a picture and we would tag each other on Facebook. So, you know, over time, when more black people join the community, you would know who we are. Because we would take pictures and tag. I mean, we even had Namaste and Obsidian, who, if you know them, they're like the super nicest people in the world, but we got them involved too, because they're like, oh yes, honey. This is a problem. We gotta fix this. So this is, and the app that he was talking about, we were almost serious about this. We're gonna release it on April 1st. So it's a joke, but not really a joke, because seriously, come on. And the guy, by the way, the Fort Lauderdale guy, his name is David Polk. He looks nothing like Ramien.
Or
right?
Or my partner.
Or I'm like, yeah. So the Know Your Negro, one thing that both Ramien and I do is there's healing in humor, especially when it comes to a sensitive subject like racism. So being the nice guy, I am also the nice girl, especially with sensitive subjects like that, because we don't want you to fear us, we want you to hang with us and respect us. And that's a big difference. And so, again, with the Know Your Negro thing, I will talk about this, I'm sure, until I'm like 88 years old, being inducted to the Leather Hall of Fame, like, Know Your Negro, Jill Carter, I'm not her, but you know, I may look like her. So again, healing and humor, so that's the Know Your Negro thing. Do you want to talk about pie? Because you've like brought this up 80,000 times, and you should probably talk about it, because that's awesome.
Okay, so I do have a sugar addiction, and I have a big sweet tooth, and I love desserts, except for, in my sort of classification system, desserts fall into 3 categories. They are either cakes, pies, or puddings. I do not care for any of the puddings, just so that we know. But cakes and pies, I'm all about them. But what I think is really going on is it's me, so before this event, often when I go to events, I'm hungry. And there's I'm at a contest, I would like some comfort food.
Chicken?
I'd like fried chicken or pie. And there's been a noticeable and very frustrating lack of both of those things at all the events I go to. Even though I make like Facebook hints about it. So even though there have been several people, Patty Imsel, Keith from our class, Mr. New Jersey Leather, got me pie for his event. There's somebody else who got me pie. So individual people would get me pie, but I kept thinking, why are producers not producing pie? You can produce an event, but not a pie. You know, I come across the country and there's no pie. So I was thinking about that, and then this week, I felt like there was too much mean stuff happening on Facebook. And I thought, for 10 minutes, can we talk about something nice or funny or light? Because I think that would be helpful. What could we talk about for 10, 15 minutes to sort of get away from I don't like, I hate, I'm hurt, and not that those things, not that I'm trying to, yeah, like, because even though I don't believe in feelings, I support your right to have them.
Robot.
Yeah, because I'm a robot. Yeah. So I sometimes joke that I'm the first like cyborg international Mr. Leather. So, yes. Yeah. So I thought I'm going to put out there, I don't get pies at events. Why is that? I'm looking at you, Claw. I'm looking at you, Mr. Italia, which is next week. I'm not sure they'll have pie, but I'm hoping someone brings something across the border from Germany or something. Towards, yeah. So there's going to be something. But the reason why I think I eat pie or want fried chicken has to do with me sort of managing my feelings around social events. Like, it is hard to get up the nerve to be in a room full of people, to walk across a lobby, to be in a bar. Like, I have to psych myself up and talk myself down, and often have to have both tequila and caffeine to make it through, frankly. Because people are attracted to a mix of strength and warmth, and for me, caffeine is the strength and tequila is the warmth. And so I think the pie thing is just me literally me eating my feelings. This is the way I'm managing my stress of exercising my extrovert muscles so extensively this year. And that is how I think I burn the calories right now, because like, where does the pie go?
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, and all right. So do you want to really hate me? Is in the last year, I've been to the gym 10 times, 3 of which were this week.
Oh, we really hate you now.
See, you hate me now. It's the stress of the extrovertingness. That is what is burning my calories. I'm convinced. That or my pact with the devil.
Okay, so we talked about pie. Let's talk about Prince of Leather, because I remember one of our first conversation, and actually it was you asking me to interview you, and I was like blown away. I was like, I'm just a tall black woman, like gathering and herding cats. Why are you asking me to interview? Because I'm an introvert and actually kind of shy as well. But he was just like, well, I can ask anyone because I'm the Prince of Leather. And I was like, oh man, where's this Corbin Dallas multipass that you have? This is amazing. So I want you to talk about the Prince of Leather, because I think that's an awesome little nickname for you as the nice guy.
Okay, I'm not proud, and please don't talk about the fact that I called myself that. People in the future, ignore this part. So actually, at that Fort Lauderdale weekend, I had a conversation with someone in the community about the IML title, and he said, he implied basically that you're too nice, and that you actually do the title a bit of a disservice by not being more imperial. Like, people expect certain things from IML, and actually you ruin their fantasies by being too nice. And I heard that and hated it at the time. But in the pool, I thought he might not be entirely wrong. Like, there are people in the community who like to do service. So giving me a drink or a pie is something that actually turns them on. Who am I to deny them that opportunity? So I was trying on in the pool my temporary persona of Prince of Leather. I was, on my floaty.
Very kingly.
I was at the far end of the pool. Everyone else was down there. I was quietly looking with my sunglasses, my partner's down there, the pups are down, because it's a pup pool, like they're all over the place. I'm just, yes, I'm just, yes, elbow, wrist, wrist, wrist. Yeah, so that was me just trying that on. As you might have noticed, it really didn't stick. Because again, I get your fantasies, and I can support your fantasies about the title by shutting up and letting you just work them in your head and not providing you evidence to the contrary. But don't you isn't the fantasy of corrupting a nice guy so much hotter than like being corrupted by, or finding a nice guy who you think is nice, then you find out, oh, he's not so nice. Like, anyway, play with that, people.
Okay, so I'm gonna read some questions that were from Facebook. Christine.
Because good things always come from Facebook.
Okay, so where were you this week? No, because I was on there like, what? No. Anyway, so what would you consider your best experience during this title year and your worst experience during this title year?
We peeked at the questions, or Taisha let me peek at the questions a little bit before the interview, and I had an answer to this question I'm going to change now that I think about it. Both of them happened at Claw. So Claw was the best thing that happened to me last year. One of the things I've said before is that being a title holder, or just being pushed out of your comfort zone, you'll experience being at your best and not being at your worst. And at Claw last year, I was at my best and not my worst. So at my best, I got off the title holder track because there is a track here. There was like a lot of the unsolicited advice I got about going to IML is go to Claw, do this, do that, do that. And I got off the track and I went to a flogging workshop. And let's see what this flogging is about. Let's see how that goes. And I loved it. It was awesome. But I got there and it's hands-on, and I had no flogger. Because it didn't occur to me you should bring a flogger with you to a flogging workshop. And I had no one to flog. I went by myself. So, because it didn't occur to me you should bring someone to flog or to flog you when you go to a flogging workshop. So I'm there in the back of the room thinking, oh shit, I am totally unprepared for class. And this guy next to me, his name was, I didn't even know his name at the time. He said, well, I came to be a sub, but they've already got one for the demo with the instructors. I'll sub for you. And then I was like, okay, well, that's one problem solved. And then you gave me a flogger. It was blue. It was really blue and soft and pretty. And it's the silver handle. It was what? Deerskin, yes, it was deerskin. So, yes, so I got a flogger and I had a floggee and I started practicing. And I think I was really good at it. Yeah, I was really good at it. Yeah, put it back. That guy, Mike, I never had, so nice guy, stranger danger, I don't ever like to feel that I'm inconveniencing or hurting anybody. So it was a bit of a crossing a limit for me, a little bit of edge play to feel like I'm actually hurting someone, but they're enjoying it, but I'm hurting someone, but they're enjoying it. So I'm having this whole, like,
conflict.
Yes, stop, keep going, stop, keep going. They like it, keep going. And I didn't expect how connected I would feel to Mike. And in that moment, I completely fell in love with Mike. And then he was done. The workshop was over, off he goes. I'm like, I love you, but I don't know your last name. I don't know where you live. I don't know anything about you. In fact, until last night, when I went out for dinner at Bonefish, I had that seen or heard of Mike. And he was there by the door. And he looked a little familiar, and he waves, and then he says, I didn't have the beard last year, and he got that far before I tackled him. It was, I just felt like, oh my God, I found you. It was like my color purple Sealy moment. I found you. So that was the best. All right, so I'm gonna go on public record about my worst moment, and it's with some anxiety, but I feel like it's not that I'm holding the truth stick, I should be truthful. So last year at Claw was actually when I decided I wanted to win IML, or be named IML, sorry, because we're title holders, not title winners. So that's when I decided I want to be IML, but I didn't have a good reason. I had what I would call No, it was not world peace. It was really, there was somebody else that I didn't want to win. And so I said, I don't want that person with this title. I want a nice person like me to have it. And it was me sort of at my basest, like, you can't have it, so I'm gonna take it from you moment. And I'm not proud of it, but that's the honest truth. And I will say that, so yes, that was me, my best and my worst. And is that the question?
We're gonna talk about balancing leather.
Okay, so now that we've talked about that, we're going to talk about balancing your leather personal and professional life. Because what do you do for a living?
I work for NASA. So, but what that means, and no one outside of DC cares, but I'm a contractor as opposed to a civil servant. What that means is I work for a company. Actually, my company is owned by Alaskan natives, these 6 villages in the north part of Alaska, because instead of their reparations, is they get to form companies that compete for government contracts. So, you know, why didn't we get that deal? Like, we should cash the 40 acres of a mule. Government contract, that's the way you want to go. So I work for, and exactly what I do, so that's NASA, sounds great. Contractor, I help arrange training for systems engineers. And system engineers are engineers who put together systems, so like the people, like the rocket engine and the navigation and the part that keeps people alive, that's called something. But that each of those systems needs to be managed, and so systems engineers do that. I help arrange training for those people. I don't actually train them. Like, I'm not a rocket scientist. I literally just all I do is send emails and reports all day. Like, this class needs to go there. Here's how many people are going. Here's your evaluation, here's our rank. Like, that's what I do. So, but I keep that professional life going. I have a partner. I do volunteer work. I'm on the board of a local LGBTQ youth organization. I was singing in my church choir until IML, but I'm almost never home on the weekends. And so sometimes I balance it well. Sometimes I feel like I'm a shitty boyfriend, or a shitty worker, or a shitty board member. Like, I go through that all the time. Because again, by my own setup, I have created, I do it all by myself, whereas I could have involved other people in my title year. I see Miguel Ayala out there. He's been involved a little bit in terms of like what little social media skill I have, I've learned from Miguel. Like, I didn't. Yes, so I've just tweeted something because Miguel is here.
So Oprah. You got your own like marketing team and stuff.
Well, but I don't even let him do marketing for me all the time. Like, he barely knows. Like, I don't even communicate. Like, do you know what I was doing? You don't even know what I do. Like I go off on things I don't tell him. I go to public events and leave, and like, no, yeah. I could open my mouth a little bit more, but so I don't always manage that, like the different. I don't keep all the plates spinning. Like, my big goal, particularly now with the last 30 days, is to, God, please don't let me break anything in a way that's irreparable. Like, at least let me keep my job. I'm gonna be in the hole for annual leave. Like, I won't be able to ever leave for vacation until like 2018. I will be grounded by my boyfriend forever. But I'm so excited that I've had this opportunity. I really think of my title year as a personal and professional development program. Like, and I've used the phrase more high fidelity version of myself. I know more about what I can do and what I can't do. Again, this all makes me more excited about my leather future, and my future work in the community, as opposed to feeling like I've been given this in recognition. It's like tenure. Like, tenure can be given to recognize you for all your contribution to the field or to your promise. And I feel like the way I'm approaching it is this was given to me about my promise, not necessarily about my contribution.
Okay, so you were talking about your community, Wolf Forest on Facebook, and then we'll have some people, if you would like to ask him questions, we'll let you do that. What do you feel is the greatest issue currently that's facing the leather community?
Okay. And I've thought about this a lot recently. I think it's the whole eating our young or eating each other issue. And on one hand, I get why we want to eat each other because we're so tasty, but it's non-productive for the future. You know, it's like the Shakers, you know them? They made great furniture, didn't believe in having sex, now they're all dead. Because it's a non-sustainable model, right? All right, just talking. All right, so, but one thing I keep saying to people is we really beat ourselves up about how we beat ourselves up. We are, by being a minority of a larger society, we are a microcosm of the things that go on in that larger society. This is us internalizing all the hate and fighting in the rest of the world, in the rest of the universe that we see on TV. Yes, it's horrible, particularly since we're so close to each other, it feels like very personal violence. But it's the same violence that's out there. And I kind of think that when it's fixed out there, it'll be fixed in here. Now we can try and fix it first, we can make our spaces and our relationships so incredibly awesome and so incredibly nice and just friendly that, you know, maybe the larger vanilla community will take a lesson and start stealing that from us as opposed to like Shades of Grey type stuff that they're stealing, that they might be stealing from us badly. But that I think it's a conversation that's easy to have when you're not feeling like you're in crisis. And yeah, I think things are sort of crappy in the sort of the social media part of our community, but I just think that there is no, I fall back to there is no situation, no relationship which is not improved with more love. And maybe that means more self-love, in which case people may need to go back to their hotel rooms and love themselves a whole lot more until their attitudes change for the better, and at which point they can leave their rooms and come out and enjoy the rest of us. You, to your room to masturbate. Maybe that's what we have to start doing. But I also feel like, and I don't have to like you to love you. God, if that were a requirement, I might not love anybody. So love, microcosm, eating our young because we're tasty.
Questions from the audience?
Yes. Does anyone have a question?
What kind?
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna walk over, or I'm just gonna hand you the mic so that you're picked up.
What kind of pie?
That was my question.
What kind of pie?
Brilliant.
Really, all that, and what your first question is?
What kind of pie?
All right, so all the berries, no peach. Apple, cream pies are on a case-by-case basis. Like literally, not by case-by-case. I'm not gonna eat a case, but like literally, like some key lime pies are great. Some I don't care for. You can't be too pudding, right. So you have to be careful. But I would say my family's sweet potato pie is my favorite. Upstairs I have cherry, blueberry, apple, Michigan four-berry. Apparently that's a real thing. I didn't know Michigan had four berries. And I have a burnt almond torte from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So later on Facebook, there's gonna be a picture of me with my sash and dessert and nothing else.
Okay, well, I'll be up there, because he's already said he's gonna share the apple pie with me, because I told him I'd tell his mama on him if he didn't share some of the pie. So after my class, you will find the black woman with him eating some apple pie. So here's another question.
I was just going to ask, after you got your title, what's the most difficult thing you dealt with? The international title. One of the more challenging things you dealt with?
One of the more challenging things I've dealt with is I'm struggling with how honest I want to be because I'd be speaking for people who are not here. But I can say this, The hardest thing is like seeing people who I care about be hurt. And having people that I care about who are feeling hurt come to me asking me for help. And thinking, my way of wanting to help this situation may not be your way. Like those are always scary moments because I have some, well everyone has more feelings than me, but I have some people in my life who like can be very, when they're hurt, very angry and militant. Like, and I want this and I want that. And I'm talking from this place where I am and it's real, but help me. Like they sometimes don't say that, but they're only calling me because they want me to help. And so finding a way to help them in a way that still where I'm being true to myself is hard. So I've had a couple of experiences, or particularly around trans men, who I like and love, who were insulted and hurt, and I had to figure out what I was going to do to both show them that I love them and I see them and I care about you, and I also want to be nice and polite, which is sort of my default. And I think I did okay at that. Yeah, it would be interesting for me to talk to them to find out how they feel, but I think that's been the hardest part, is a peer review. Oh my God, there was? I would totally quit. There's no peer review for IML.
Any other questions? Does anyone have? Okay. Mr. Virginia?
How easy or difficult was it to negotiate travel when you had to go places and stuff like that? Was that easy for you to get?
Yeah, so with the IML title, people were very helpful. There's a travel fund that comes with the IML organization, and I was very appreciative of that. I always wanted more. For a number of events, they will give me money or reimburse me for my flight, or a couple of events even bought my flight for me. I had to get over my reluctance to ask for help or to ask for reimbursement. I just said, I need to suck it up, buttercup, and put on my big boy pants and just say, hey, can you help me? And that was hard. And the other thing that was a real advantage, I feel like I'm really fortunate, is I have a club that I I asked for support. I said, here's what I'm doing, here's the support I've gotten, I need this much more to finish out, I will take anything, can you help? And and they said, thank you for asking, that it was an honor to be an organization, Onyx, where, after 20 years, where they're in a place where the national organization had the money to be able to give me to give me a substantial contribution to my travel fund. So I would say the big lesson for me was ask for help. If I had thought of anything sooner, I would have asked more of my friends who travel for work for their miles. Like, I went to Montreal and I'm going to Italy on tickets bought by people with their miles. And I wish the second I left Chicago last May, I had emailed 30 people and said, can I have your miles? Because everyone used them at Christmas. So by the time I thought of that, only a few people had any miles left to give me.
Any other question? What's the time, by the way? Because I have a class after that. 3. Okay, someone's gonna have to find out when my class actually starts, because I forgot. Here's the question.
I have a two-parter. Can you explain what the exact process of maybe winnowing down the contestants, for number one, and number two, did you think that at any time, what were the judges looking for? Did you have that feeling?
And you're talking about IML, right?
Yes.
All right, so the contest is really 2 contests, because they throw out the scores. So the first contest is the interview and pecs and personality. How do you look? How do you carry yourself on stage in a jog? How do you deal with your pop question, which came in 18 different parts? And then how did you do during your 8-minute interview with 9 judges? I had was nervous and panicky about both of those parts. And what helped settle me was, I kept getting this advice from my SASH father, is control what you can control. You can't control what exactly those 8 people are looking for on that day. I tell people that I'm not a representative of the community because none of you had a vote. And actually those 8 judges didn't vote so much as score me. So I realized that if I am honest and a reasonable person and do my job as a local title holder, my chances of getting to top 20 are pretty good. So I'm going to focus on that. Beyond that, it's really judge's choice. And judge's choice meaning that year, what do those 8 people want? And they don't collude, theoretically. I'm pretty sure they don't, so there's no way of knowing. So I just gave up on that part of. I did make in my binder, I had my sheets about each judge and what questions I thought they might want to ask, but all my questions essentially came from my application, as well as some like history questions of, pick some IMLs who you want to personify, pick some IMLs and do kinky things to them, that type of stuff. Did I answer both of your questions? Yeah, so I was in fifth. They gave us our scores on the Monday after the contest, and I didn't expect there to also be a moment where we're all opening our envelopes and seeing what our scores are. So I was fifth going into the finals. So there were 4 people who were ahead of me those first 2 pieces.
Any other questions?
I am a person of color as well, but I have pretty much grown up in the predominantly white community. How about you, as far as your background? Were you more, raised culturally as a black man, or more Americanized like myself? And with that in mind, do you feel the pressure to represent your culture?
Good question, because I hadn't expected it. So I grew up in Westchester, Pennsylvania, which is no reason for any of you to know where that is, other than it's the home of Bayard Rustin, who is kick-ass, but it's also the home of QVC. Right. But at the time, it was home of nothing. So it's a predominantly white suburb of Philadelphia, and I was a latchkey kid, so I would go to school in the morning, I would come home, and I would stay home. I didn't play, I didn't have friends, because it wasn't a safe, I knew at the time it wasn't safe, not like I was gonna get shot, but it was more an issue of people being mean to me or my family, and I was raised in a single parent, just by my mother, so she feared, she was, my stranger danger issues, I found out much later in life were actually also my mother's. Also, my social anxiety issues were hers too, I am my mother's child in that sense. So I grew up around white people. And I changed high schools. I grew up in Westchester, Pennsylvania. We moved to Chester, Pennsylvania, and that sounds close, but it's 2 different worlds apart. I don't know any sort of equivalent here in Cleveland to give you a good example. It's 23 miles. I went from being one of 6 black kids in my school to a school where it was 99.4% black. And everyone was tall. I was very small growing up, so you can tell I have a height issue. And that was my first experience being around black people, where I was in the minority, and then I went to boarding school. I went to Quaker boarding school my last 2 years. And I didn't know what that would be like, so I remember I studied. I watched MTV that whole summer beforehand, thinking that was what white people were like. And they're not. Because then I started to deal with all the privilege issues that didn't show up on MTV back then, back when they showed actual music videos. So I feel less pressure now to represent my community than I did then. Growing up, I was often the one black kid in my class, or in my program, or at my summer camp program initiative that I went to, or in the room, or at my job, or in the meeting. In the leather community, I feel less pressure to represent my community more so than in other environments. I'm not entirely sure where that is, but I just can tell you that that's the way that I feel.
So I have a question talking about communities and cultures. What can we as a black community do to help bridge the race relations gap that is a current problem in our community?
I'm going to think out loud about my answer because I don't know is the short answer. And I think people smarter than me. But here's what the general rule that I think applies here is, it's that whole church visitor model. You ever go to church and the visitors all stand up? I think that model sucks. And I stopped standing up because I thought, if I'm the guest, why am I introducing myself? Shouldn't you all be introducing yourselves to me? So I would say, if you're a numerical minority in any community, it is not your job to assert yourself or make a place for yourself or make that bridge. It's really the job of the folks there to say hello to you. And the way I sort of approach it is at the bar. At the bar, do I say hello to the women who come in? like because they are a minority? Do I say hello to the black people who come in, which may or may not be a minority depending on the night? Like, do I say hello to the pups who come in? And so I sort of feel like that it's not people of color's job, or in this case, to fix it. And fixing it may only be literally just having them feel welcome and loved and seen. And that's maybe nothing more than saying, hello, how are you doing? Like, what brought you here tonight? Are you having a good time? Do you know so-and-so? Let me introduce yourself. Let me introduce you to them. Like, that bar etiquette, bar title holder etiquette, I think could go a long way in our community in general and at these events. I also think nothing ever gets solved on the internet, and a lot of people have not gotten that memo. The internet is good for stalking. The internet is good for sharing, for broadcasting, like tweets from me, apparently. But it is not good for, no problem ever got solved on the internet that I know of. It's good for fundraising, it's good for cat memes. And actually I did think, before I sent the post about the pie, I thought, okay, the other thing I could do is I could say, like, post pictures of baby bunnies and baby kittens and baby animals and say, a baby bunny will die for every day all this infighting continues. I know, wouldn't that be horrible? But you would hate me, and then maybe you would galvanize. Maybe I would bring you all together. For the bunnies. No?
Not for the children.
Not for the children? All right, well, clearly I went well, I went with the pie instead, so I guess that plan B is not ever going to get used.
Okay, so is there any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to ask a sexist question that's asked to women all the time, you know, over the world. You dress immaculately, so why do you dress the way you do and what do you wear?
Who am I wearing? Is that what you're asking?
Who are you wearing, dear?
So my philosophy is I keep it simple because it gives me fewer things to fuck up. So I, t-shirts, like a vest. My favorite piece of leather that I've purchased is a zip-up vest because it replaces the shirt because I'm lousy at tucking in the back. One of the DC Eagles' jobs is when you get, when your new DC Eagle comes along, your job is to go to events behind him and to tuck him into the back. Like you follow him around and tuck all the time. So I just try and keep it as simple as possible. And the piece of leather.
What do you wear?
What
brand?
What brand? Oh, I wear. I started out with lots of stuff from the Leatherman in New York City. They've been incredibly kind to me and wonderful, and nothing I'm wearing now is from them. But these boots were gifted to me by my Onyx big brother, so they mean a lot to me. The pants are from FM Leathers, Felix in New York. I really love him. He's just a really kind, sweet person. He's a little guy, and he's straight, but he is friendly and welcoming. And when you go to his shop, his wife has a daycare center above, so you have to literally walk over kids who are taking naps to get to his little leather shop, and it smells beautiful. It's really just really cute. So I'm wearing DC Eagle up here, and then my vest is from Leatherworks down in Florida. So I just try and keep it simple. I don't think it's so much. It's not very important what I wear. And it can be so expensive in our community, and I just feel. I went to IML with 3 pairs of boots. Which were all the boots I owned. I went with 3 pairs of pants, which were all the pants I owned. I went with 3 leather shirts, which were all the shirts I owned. I had a lot of vests because, no, I didn't have. I have a lot of vests now because I have my Onyx vest, but then once I became DC Eagle, I couldn't wear that, so I started wearing my DC Eagle vest, and then when I became IML, I couldn't wear either of those other 2 vests, so I had to make me a patch that had them all in it so that I could just wear 1 vest from now on. But I have I would consider remarkably little leather, because I think it's more important what you do and how you conduct yourself. Do you conduct yourself in a way where you're being your best and highest self and allowing other people to be their best and highest selves? I feel like that's more to me about what a leather person or a title holder is than what they wear. Although I do like a nice clean pair of boots.
Here's another question I just thought of. What can extroverts do to help introverts, I'm not going to say survive more in conferences,
But like, how can we bridge the gap between extroverts and introverts? Because I know there's been more talk about, introverts have been talking more about needing help to re-energize. There seems to be a lot more introverts pushing more and doing more than they can handle. So how can extroverts help introverts balance themselves more in the community?
Let us say no. Some of the people who like you don't let you say no. I'm gonna go up to my room. No, stay here with us. We love you. Just have another drink or do things to my body or face. Yeah, let us say no, and because I think it's our job to manage ourselves. I will get myself. Believe me, I will get myself to my room and into my pie place and just hang out. Like, you just have to not give me shit about it when I do, and not take it personally. I sort of feel like that's what's needed. Or we could have like a scheduled siesta, which is going to turn smutty, but you know, at least some people will take advantage of it during these events. But just let us say no, or back out of things without making it a discussion or a big deal.
So you said smut. Is the room monitor here to give me a 10-minute like warning? Can one of you guys make sure that I don't go over to my class? My class is right after this class. I have 45 minutes. Okay, good. They know. Okay, good. Okay. So now I almost forgot my question. We just talked about introverts and extroverts, right? Smut, great. So what is a fantasy that you wish to have that you haven't done yet?
All right, so before I answer the question that you asked me, I will say this, that I struggle with a little bit of, what is it called, imposter syndrome? What is it when you feel like someone's gonna come and tap you on the shoulder and say, I know your secret, I know you don't belong here, whatever that is. And as a poor black kid and like growing up, I always felt that what if these kids find out that I'm not as smart or I'm not as rich as them? But I feel that a little bit, I let myself feel that a little bit at leather events or in the leather community because I feel as if I might not be as kinky or as smutty as other people. And then I realized that because I'm measuring myself against all of you, and not even all of you, but like the highlight of all of you. Like at these things, this is your highlight. I'm assuming that for many of you, when you go back to wherever you are from, that you might not dress like this all the time, or do all the things that you were doing out here all the time. But that's the highlight reel that I feel that's my baseline in my head. I feel like, well, I don't measure up to that. So I frequently say to myself, maybe I'm not as kinky as an IML should be, or as a DC Eagle should be. So the things that I am into, vlogging, I will say vlogging left and right. I will say bondage left and right. I will say impact play left. Yeah, so, yeah, I'm done. And that's kind of as far as it goes. I'm not against other stuff, and I'm open to other stuff. I'm definitely open to watching lots of things. And a particular scene, I don't have one in my head. I really don't want to make one. Can I answer the question? Okay. All right, only because it's my private fantasy. Like, what if it involves?
Introvert.
Oh yeah. Okay, so the thing about introverts that I heard that I think is helpful is if you talk to an extrovert and you don't know what's important to them, it's you're not listening. If you talk to an introvert, you don't know what's important to them, it's because you haven't asked the right questions. And even if you do ask us the right questions, I may not want to tell you. And I just don't want to make up something that's not true. So I'm going to say I'm going to keep my fantasy private and special. But it probably would involve all of those things and a really good boy.
Okay, so you're international. Okay.
You talked about saying no to extroverts and saying no and going to your pie place. The opposite of what does it take an extrovert to say to pull you out of your pie place when you've been hurt and you don't want to go? Or something's happened to you that you're happy in your high place or something like that, that you don't want to leave. What gets you out of that?
What gets you out of your shell?
Oh, what gets me out of my shell?
That's
That is, I know it gets me out. I don't know if it works for other people. So for me, if you, I think of myself as like, I have my bubble, and I'm in my bubble now, I need to be in my bubble. You can join me in the bubble if you shut up. And if you are in my bubble, and you're quiet, I love you. And then after a little while, maybe you say, do you want to stay here or do you want to go with me to blah, 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 blah. I might go with you then. That's if I can't get, if I'm having like, if my inner critic is going, like, and I need to like hold my breath and close my eyes and like starve him out, like, I can do that. That's a different process. But I feel like I say like a lot. I'm gonna have to work on that. If you can join me in the bubble and, you know, meet me at my energy level, which is going to be a quiet one, then I think that's one way of getting me out.
Can we do things to you in the bubble?
Can you do things to me in the bubble? Yes. You can do quiet things. You can do touching things. No. They could involve food. They could involve just like being like being held is a great way for me to get out of that. Whether it's platonic holding or snuggling, that works. Being present with me is a huge help for when I'm feeling drained or hurt or upset. I don't know if that works for other introverts.
I think it does. I'm definitely like you. Sometimes we just need like presence, like physical presence. Like, I'm here, I know you don't want to talk or like be active, but I am sitting here with you in solidarity and we're just gonna hang out in silence. I love that. Because it's noisy and loud when we're doing our thing, right? Like when we're out of our bubble, it's noisy and loud, we're doing things, we're running up and down, and then when we're in our bubble, like, and it's rare, if you're able to get into someone's bubble like ours, like consider that like the greatest gift ever, because we are very picky in terms of who we choose to allow in our bubble, because it's also an energy thing. So you can still be quiet and your energy can still be so corrupted that it's like still like, ooh, awkward turtle, like, go. Yeah, I do awkward turtle a lot. So yeah, no, I actually think that, I've talked to other introverts again, like even Jeffrey Payne, like silence is amazing when we're not doing our thing. Like even if it's like hanging out in a pool in silence, reading a book, just watching TV, like it's great. So we're gonna talk about your International Mr. Leather, Scout is International Mr. Boot Black. So I want you to talk about your relationship with Scout.
I will start by saying that I love Scout. Scout is very different from me. He expresses, I'm gonna say he's an extrovert, but he definitely expresses more, whereas I play with my cards close to my chest. I decided early that I wanted to try and treat him as a whole and complete human being. And I think my experience with boot blacks is that they, in this community, are sometimes seen as less than because of their service nature. In the same way that I sometimes think that boys and pups are seen as less than because of sort of the... Yes, but boot blacks are not necessarily submissives.
Right.
And that, I think, was and Scout is a Sir Boot Black. Although he doesn't use that title, he is not submissive. And there are a number, and what was, I think, helpful for me is that on my road to DC Eagle, actually, I met boot blacks in Baltimore, Loki, who's a dominant boot black. So I was able actually to have that conversation where I realized it never occurred to me that boot blacks, I drank the Kool-Aid and thought they were all submissives. And so by the time I got to Scout, I think I was predisposed to see him as a whole and complete human being. And so it hurts me when there are times when other people don't see him in the same way I do. I also realize that my relationship with Scout is not anyone else's relationship with Scout, which is the same with my relationship with anybody. Like my relationship with you is not the same as... Exactly. So I'm not always on my best behavior. I don't think for a minute that Scout is perfect and always on his best behavior, but that doesn't mean that I don't necessarily like or agree with everything that he does or says, but he knows that, and he will text me, and I will text back, and he will text me, and text me, and I will text back. But I think that I've just been good about being consistent about that relationship. If he is at an event with me, I try and make a point of making sure he is with me, that we are together. When I first started, I know I barely used it. I had this Google form I was going to send to people when they invited me to events to sort of organize me. So it had questions like, are you paying for my travel or am I? Yes, no, you don't know. When do you need me to be there? Really? When can I leave? Really? And then it had, up at the top it had, have you invited International Mr. Bootblack to the same event? Yes, no, I don't know. Have you invited International Ms. Leather to the same event? Yes, no, I don't know. Have you invited International Ms. Bootblack to the same event? I wanted to put it out, just asking, and I asked out, how can I support you? And he told me. One of the things he said was, you could, whenever someone invites you to something, ask them if I'm coming too, or if they've invited me. And if you don't go to something, or can't go, ask them, would they consider asking me? Because the thing about Scout is he can teach classes. Like, he actually has skills, besides bootlegging. Like, so I have nothing. I mean, I'm pretty and funny, but I can't do a class.
So that's my next question.
What can I do?
Like, what do you think you could teach the community that you're like great at?
The stuff that I'm great at, I'm not sure is helpful. So helpful to you guys. Not that it's not helpful. So I was trained as a classroom teacher. I was a middle school history teacher in Oakland, California. I was a volleyball coach in Oakland, California. I was a middle school dean in Pennsylvania. I was a college dean. I'm great at helping people manage problems, negotiate things. I'm excellent at learning something well enough to teach you about it, except for rocket science. As long as math is not involved, we're good. Although I love statistics, I could teach statistics. But none of that is helpful to you guys, right? I could teach public speaking, although when I do that, I don't say like as much as I'm saying now, so please don't judge me. I could teach about, I actually have no idea. Most of the NASA job is great and helpful, and I'm supporting space, but doesn't necessarily fulfill my soul because I really like direct service. So on the side, I do lots of consulting. Less so now than I did before IML, but all that involved coaching, job coaching for young managers, career coaching, helping them be more effective in the workplace, helping them be wildly successful. It also helped doing classes on, I'm a Myers-Briggs certified practitioner, so I would do Myers-Briggs courses, as well as the DISC, which is another one of those same instruments about workplace or team relationships. So I'm good at sort of corporate training. I like doing that, but I don't hear people clamoring for that at other events.
I don't have a question, I have a comment. You said that you can't teach us anything. I think where your talents lie is modeling. And I'm not talking about looks.
You are a great example at being an example. Like, you're really good at conflict resolution. I think you're a great mentor and advocate and activist. You say you're not an activist, but your actions are being an activist. So even though you don't speak a lot, your actions speak more for you, so you don't have to. Which again is actually a really great introvert thing. I think that's also across the board. We are very action oriented. We actually don't talk as much, although right now I am, but
yeah, in this country.
God, Lord. So yeah, that would be, you're amazing at that. I love that you said that comment.
My question goes back a little earlier what you were saying. How do you feel, or how do you address people who see you as either a fetish, fantasy, as a title holder, or just ring and peer, the guy who I've known all my life?
Are you also talking in terms of like person of color too?
Yes.
Okay, great. That's a great question. Okay.
So people who see me just as one thing.
Well, okay, I mean, how do you...
Like black people being a fetish.
Okay, so one way I manage this idea of when I feel like, because I don't necessarily know exactly what's going on in the hearts and minds of people, although you can make good guesses, but when I get the vibe that this person has fetishized me or exoticized me or objectified me in a way that it seems unpleasant. One thing I've learned is to never be alone. Do not go, especially if you're a title holder, do not go anywhere by yourself. You need somebody who can say, I have a question for you, or this person over here needs you to do something to pull you away from the crazy, or the weird. And Patty Imsel is amazing at this. It has saved me a number of times. She's like, I can tell that that person is bad for you at that moment, so I'm going to drag you over here. The other thing that I've done is I've asked for MLEs at events. I've called emailed the organizers at events and said, I have social anxiety issues, I'm an introvert, I don't know your people, can you assign something? Like in The Devil Wears Prada, there's Emily who sort of says, oh, that's so-and-so, and who's here with such and such, and that's not his wife. And so I needed someone to do that for me, because I know my crazy in my community. Like, I know people and how to manage those relationships, but if I come here, or if I go to Chicago, or if I go to Iowa or Minneapolis, I don't know those people. So each of those times I asked the people who invited me, can you give me somebody who can be with me? Like, as an introvert, it's helpful to have somebody, like, I'm never alone.
Like in Finding Nemo, do you have your exit buddy? Like, that is key. I'm very much like that too. You look like you had a comment.
Yeah, so I think that's sort of the way that I managed other people's projections or fantasies on me. I was doing something else that was really smart, but I don't have to come here.
I want to talk about coming out of the closet as a Black Kingster. Was that hard for you or not? In terms of, like, how out are you in terms of, like, because you're part of Onyx, but is it hard for you to be a gay Black Kingster?
It wasn't hard for me to come out. There have been moments since coming out that I've wondered, is this going to ruin my life opportunities in terms of future jobs? So before the DC Eagle contest, I wanted to do my due diligence. I wanted to find out if my company had a morals clause, so I talked to my boss. She said, no, you're good, but talk to legal. They had me fill out a conflict of interest form just in case my company ever competes with the DC Eagle for a government contract. And the same thing with IML. IML is listed on my official conflict of interest form in case the IML organization ever competes for, a Department of Energy contract with my company. They'll know that I can't be involved. So I'm fortunate to have a very supportive supervisor and company that let me do that. There are times when I've thought, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to get a job that I might want. Before all of this, I really envisioned myself as being head of a school or president of a small liberal arts college, and eventually I'll have those credentials. And it would take someone exactly 3.2 seconds under Google to find out, because there aren't very many Ramien Pierres out there, to find out here's all this stuff. So I have, in some sense, I've decided I'm gonna walk towards the danger. So on my LinkedIn profile, it has my titles listed. I actually have in the 3-paragraph summary, the last paragraph talks about the titles. It is framed as looks like the philanthropic side of it, the charities I support. But I've walked towards that piece about being out. Coming out wasn't hard, but there have been times when I thought, if I shot myself in the foot. And it all happened by accident. I had this huge debate with DC Eagle, like, should I use my real name? Should I use some other name, like a stage name? Because I know that that's allowed on the application. It actually says stage name. And I wrote in one, and I used my Onyx line name, which I hate, so I'm not going to repeat it here. But at the night of the contest, the guy on stage just read meet the contestants the night before, he just read my name, and I didn't feel panicky, so I thought, well, I'm just gonna stick with that. And so the judges actually asked me, we see on your application that you had this other name, is that the name you want to use? And so I had a chance to actually say, no, last night you used my real name, and I am okay with that. And so I'm just gonna go with that.
Okay, my next question will be, what advice would you give to a new person coming into leather inking? Because you're new, so I'm sure it's different.
Yeah, I'm new. I still consider myself new. So my first leather event was 6 years ago. IML was my first IML. Claw last year was my first Claw. MAL was the only event I went to more than once before last year. I've only been into a play space while it was being used once. It was IMSL last month. This month? What month is this? This month. IMSL this month. And I try to think if this is true. I don't think I ever went to a play space before. Like that was the first time I went to a play space. So being okay with being new is I think sort of the first thing, is don't feel like in a community where there is, and I'm gonna use the word myth, like and in the positive sense, where there's a myth around longevity and tradition and history. It is okay to be new if you are respectful and open-minded. And that was I was always ready for that question during interviews. You've been here exactly 4 minutes, why should you get anything, let alone a title, get out of here? And I would say that it's better to be new and open-minded and friendly than experienced and mean and closed-minded. So,
I call them asshats.
Asshats, you're funny. So I would tell them, be okay with being new and find people who will help recharge you. And if you need a club like Onyx, then find that club. If you need, like a one-on-one relationship with a sir or a boy, like find something that keeps you going, because being new is still work. Learning is work, and it's hard and burns brain calories. Sing.
Oh.
Right. So.
You're like, same thing.
So I would say find ways to make sure that you're keeping your tank full. Like find ways to fill your tank, because being new is hard work and can drain your tank. And have fun. And take the community seriously, take the history seriously, take the fetish and the practice of each different kink seriously, and take yourself lightly. This is oh good Lord, this is, yeah, and that's the way I feel about my titles. I take the title seriously, but take myself lightly. And I think you'll be okay.
I like that whole take yourself lightly. I think that's like a rampant problem in my eyes. I think that's a problem right now. I think there needs to be more humor in the community. Everything is so serious. Okay, so you wanted to ask a comment or something like that? What did he say? Okay, oh great. Oh, same me. Okay, so you have a comment.
Would you say the same thing about somebody who is thinking about running for either a regional or an international title?
Say what same thing?
The same thing that you just said.
The same advice would you give that to the title or potential title?
Someone running for a potential title, I think I give them slightly different advice. I would say, in terms of take yourself lightly, I definitely would say that's true. I would say that there is more than one reason to run for a title. And it could be about yourself, in terms of self-development. It could be about love for your club or your region or your community or your bar. It can be about wanting to have sex and be sexy and be that personification of sexiness for your gender, gender identified role. It could even be about for spite. Yes, I decided to do IML. That moment at Claw last year was on spite, which is not necessarily something you want to hold on to, but if that gets your boots out the door towards a good cause, then if it gets you out of bed, fear of your community again. I would say just find whatever your reason is to get comfortable with it. It could be more than one reason too. That's the thing I was going to say, is that I'm okay with somebody sort of fetishizing me, seeing me as one thing. It's frustrating to me and ironic with this community, because it's kind of seeing me as a categorical absolute. You are this and you can only be this. And our community is great at doing the opposite of that with things as opposed to people. So you go with Kinksters through the supermarket and it's like you're shopping for a date. You go through the hardware store, it's like you're shopping for a good time on a Friday night. Like what looks like a toothbrush or a cup or a lanyard, like we can do all sorts of kinky shit to do with that. Like we see a cup can be 5 different things. You know, a spatula can be 18. Everything is easily convertible. There are no category absolutes when it comes to things, but we get caught up around people. Like this is what you are. You are a pup and you are only a pup. This is how broad pups are, and that is all you can be. You will never be anything different. Like I don't think we say it out loud, but I think we get stuck that way. Stuck in that place. And most people I know do they operate within a range. Like, I'm somewhere in the Ramien spectrum. Where am I today? You're somewhere in the Taisha spectrum. Where are you today? And maybe tomorrow or next year you've developed something new. But I think one thing, if I could wave my magic wand, and change something in our community, would be that we treat each other the way we treat our things in terms of that aspect. That we, I don't even know if we take care of our things, we wash and care for them and love them, and we see that they can be more than one thing at one time, and not always the same. Does that make any sense? Oh, does it bother me? Usually not, and here's why. Because I don't care what most people think. I once gave this talk to high school kids about careers in the arts, because one of my past careers, I was also an arts manager for 9, some number between 7 and 10 years. And they said, well, you said you were an introvert. Was it hard for you to do all the things you did by being an introvert? And I said, actually, it was easier because I didn't care about my social network. I could just pick up and move. I didn't care what 10 people think. I only care what 2 people think, and they're not in this room. So it's okay for me to have, you can think that all you want, unless you're one of the 2 people that I care about, in which case then I have a problem. Especially since I'm in town for all of 72 hours. Think what you want, I will never see you again.
That's so true. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
yeah. That is not a high stakes relationship. Did everyone see, what was that movie with Brad Pitt and the fighting? Fight Club. The first third of which is actually really funny, but he was on the plane with Edward Norton, is that his name? That character, and he was talking about disposable friends, or single-serving friends on airplanes. Like, am I gonna be nice to this person who I'm sitting next to for an hour because they're a single-serving friend? Or am I gonna be a jackass? And he said, I'm always nice, because they're a single-serving friend. I never see, so that's the way I treat them. You're a single-serving kinkster for this weekend. I'm not gonna see you again, and if I do, I can always say I don't remember you. Or I'll see you first and run away. Like, this is not, I don't have to worry about it. Of the many things that I worry about, that is, even though it's uncomfortable at the moment, I get over it quickly. Does that make any sense? All right.
does anyone have any other questions or comments? I think the time is pretty much up. You're like, so like, we're done, let's go. Okay, well, thank everyone for coming out to this interview. It's been amazing. It's being recorded, so I'm hoping that, they'll get sent to LAM and others to get to see it, because it's very important, some of the stuff is said. And so that concludes the interview of Ramien.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for being single-serving friends.
Who wants a hug? I did. Fool me once, shame on me. Wait, you.
Hey. Oh my God.
Good, and you? When did you get into town?
I did, well, because when I'm married, I get money. Okay, good. I hate to be the lame, like, person, like, wah, wah.